Welcome to the Cinema Gold Show. I'm your host, Larry Leese. Today we're breaking down the latest movie and TV news. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. Poddex is the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations. Simply shuffle up, ask a question, let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com and use code CinemaGold for 10% off your order. So let's take a look at the latest box office news. Mortal Kombat crushed the weekend box office with a $22.5 million debut. The opening is even more impressive considering that the movie is currently streaming on HBO Max for paid subscribers. Globally, the film was able to earn $50 million, despite some mixed reviews from longtime video game fans and critics. This weekend's debut actually isn't too far off from the '95 adaptation, which opened with $23.2 million. This weekend's opening is the highest of a movie with an R rating in the pandemic thus far. Movie theaters are still slowly opening their doors again, while offering new ways to enjoy their entertainment options. Some theaters are allowing private rentals that are often pretty cheap when compared to before the pandemic, while also screening older and classic movies in addition to the new releases. In addition, vaccines are on the rise, and the North American public is getting more confident about venturing outside of their homes again to enjoy a movie in a smaller capacity. Several larger movies are on the way for this summer and the fall, so we should see an increased uptake in box office numbers in the near future. Funimation Demon Slayer took the second spot at the box office with a $19.5 million debut. The Japanese animated dark fantasy is based on the series Demon Slayer. I'm not even going to say the whole title. Godzilla vs. Kong fell to number 3 after bringing in $4.2 million. To date, the monster movie has been able to generate $405 million globally. Bob Odenkirk's Nobody took the 4th spot this weekend after bringing in $2 million. The action thriller continues to be hailed by viewers and critics. Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon came in at number 5 this weekend after bringing in $1.6 million. To date, the animated family film has earned just over $101 million, and it's currently streaming on Disney Plus for an additional fee. Tom and Jerry took the 6th spot with $650,000. The animated iconic duo film has earned $106.2 million globally since debuting 9 weeks ago. Together took the 7th spot, debuting with $522,000. The horror movie In the Earth came in at number 8 this weekend after bringing in $204,000. The movie has received mixed reviews from critics and currently holds a 76% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The Croods: A New Age continues to earn at the box office, 22 weeks after making its debut. The animated film took in an additional $191,000, which brings its current global grand total to just over $163 million. Finally, Minari came in at number 10 with $141,000. We got these numbers from the folks at The Numbers. You can go check them out at the-numbers.com for their analysis of the box office numbers. And our next topic. And now on to our review of The Game Changers, episode 5. The classic dad who's never around is in town, and he promises to come to my game episode. This show is the epitome of corny, but it's also so wholesome, I won't hold it against it. And it's time for the show to start bending some expectations, or it'll go stale. Thankfully, this show delivers. Or this episode delivers, I should say. I think it's always been there, but this episode makes it abundantly clear. Gordon is a certified good guy. Typically in this type of story, the new love interest and the dad get into a row. The dad sulks off in shame, and the new guy comes out looking amazing. Here, though, Gordon totally goes out of his way to get along with Evan's dad in a way that feels nothing but genuine. The whole scenario bucked my expectations completely and left me just more endeared by him and rooting for he and Alex even harder. Meanwhile, in preteen land, Lauren and Maya are subverting some tropes of their own. The episode starts with Maya scorning Lauren by recording a TikTok, promising to post it, and then not out of embarrassment. But ultimately, it turns out that Maya is just as embarrassed about being friends with Maya too. It's this neat chance to flip expectations while never for a second painting Lauren and her nerdy friends as weird or less than any other group of kids. The path through this relationship in this episode is really aspirational, and I'd frankly use it with students as an example of how not to only accept, but include people who you wouldn't think you'd be friends with. Of course, Nick also gets a chance in the middle of this scenario to deliver another absolutely killer line in a great inspirational speech. I only wish that the other team members got to have lines in this episode. I got exactly my wish from the last episode of having a chance to meet more of the team, but at least the others were just absent. Here they are just standing there stoically or nodding their heads. Disney, I think you can cough up the money to pay these kids to at least have the lines if they're going to be in episodes. It's just a bit awkward seeing them on the bench or at the lunch table not saying a word, or like a former Mighty Ducks star says, riding the pine pony. Nonetheless, the episode is strong and has the series swinging in a fun direction as it continues to take on the classic sports to show tropes, but bringing the misogyny, homophobia, and other gross stuff that has so often come as part of the package. The small twists on cheesy moments this episode had me hooting and adoring every minute. You can watch this episode on Disney Plus. New episodes air each Friday. And I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. So now, let's move on to the Falcon and Winter Soldier finale. Last week's episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier had a weird feel to it. It was almost like a season finale where there was still more story left. That would be next year's problem. It was relaxed, it took its time, and it felt incredibly coherent. Then they got to the cliffhanger, including the mid-credits scene, and let everyone wanting an action-packed final episode. Well, we got that with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 6. Yes, the finale has plenty of action and gives us some closure, but it's also a big mess. While I didn't come out of it hating the episode or the show, it just didn't sit right. Let's look at our major characters and how things worked out for them. Maybe that'll help. Sam Wilson spends the episode being Captain America and proves he's absolutely worthy of the title. This is exactly what should have been done, down to the inspirational speech at the end. This was his audition, and he did way better than Walker did. The only real downside is that his big coming out party is hurt from 2 different parties going over his head to get at the Flag Smashers. Bucky does his work, but this finale isn't really about him. His time to shine is in the aftermath, where he finally earns his true freedom from his tortured past. It's fine, but he feels a little underutilized. That said, his phone conversation with Carly is a fantastic moment. It shows that while he's not as good at talking down enemies as Sam or Steve, he always tries his best. Carly comes out of this well enough. It hits me that her character is about as sympathetic a villain we've seen in the MCU since Eric Killmonger. By the events of Black Panther, Killmonger had already taken countless lives and was too twisted to fix. Whatever point he was trying to make was buried under his own anger and bloodlust. Carly was similar in that she was fighting for the right thing, but in the wrong way, and it was only going to get worse. She gets a fitting end, and there's some good that comes in the follow-up. Sharon Carter's whole deal feels poorly considered, or possibly rewritten, re-edited from something else. It was already pretty clear that her intentions weren't pure last episode, so the major reveal with her It's the least surprising thing ever. It's like the Batman story Hush, where the secret villain is the only person it could have been, and we're supposed to be surprised. Things can pay off in the future, but Sharon isn't even the most interesting, double-dealing, scheming woman in this episode. Seriously, I come out of Sharon's final scene with, that's great, but what's going on with Contessa? Isaiah Bradley gets closure, even though it involves Sam doing something Isaiah straight up told him not to do. I did get teary-eyed at Isaiah watching Sam on TV. It took me back to a scene in the Young Avengers comics, and the great scene of Bradley seeing his disguised grandson in the newspaper crying out of pride. But then there's John Walker. Walker is the true X factor of the series, and watching his journey has been one of the true highlights of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He means well, but he's broken. You want him to do the right thing, but you fear for the worst. There's a cloud of twisted despair that follows him around, but you know that, deep down, he's not truly a villain. While I expected to see Walker redeem himself in some way this week, I just expected it to feel a little more earned. All that edge to him is just gone. The horrible feeling of him creating his own shield because in his mind he is Captain America, damn it, and he'll decide when he's done, is up in smoke. Outside of one moment where he has to make a major decision and does the right thing, he feels completely underdeveloped. Remember how weird it was when Smart Hulk showed up fully formed in Avengers Endgame? Like there was this big pile of character development that we didn't get to see. And that's how I feel about Walker popping in and practically putting his arms around Sam and Bucky's shoulder. I'm glad they have plans for him at least. I love Wyatt Russell's performance and I can't wait to see the next project for him. I'm doubly excited if it turns out to be Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers. While this episode could have used some sprucing up, the series is what it needed to be. Steve Rogers passing over the shield with no questions asked was a nice moment, but there needed to be questions, and that's what the show gave us. Now we can move forward and see what's next for the patriotic hero corner of the MCU. And at the end, I give this episode about a 3 out of 5. And that's all we have for this episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, or send us a tweet at the Cinema Gold Show. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Cinema Gold Show.